Binah Lunatic was released in February 2026. His advent heralded a new age of terror where not even a single person is cleared yet, with one person getting close after 20 teams. That's the kind of terror we expected anyways, but reality had its own plans in store. It's 2 days out from the end of the raid, and some people are plainly put, disappointed. We've come to expect Lunatic as this grand masochistic ritual for the Bald Lords. For the casual masses, it's a spectacle to be enjoyed from afar. But this time, the dev tuning made it rather accessible. Whereas some of the earlier first print Lunatics were recording 1,000 clears or less, our first run-in with Lunatic Binah is approaching a Lunatic cutoff at breakneck pace. 2 days left, and we're on the cusp of minting the first gold Lunatics. I can't say I was a believer, but it seems the masses were hungry for their first Lunatic clears to wash down the free Shiokuro Platinum. And how did we end up with this free Lunatic anyways? I'd chalk it up to 3 main reasons: accessibility of the meta teams, mechanic changes, and undertuning. Lunatic requires 2 teams at minimum right now. A good number of other Lunatics have reached 2 teams as well, some even on the first run. But these Binah ones are extra accessible as far as Lunatic goes. I qualify this because it still requires a lot of limited units and a bit of second tier meta stuff. It's not quite first month insane kind of cheap, but any player who's been around without abysmal luck and picks up the conventional muscles should have all the limited students required. The expensive units would be Kokona, Binah, and Swimsuit Kana, who require luck, selectors, or deliberate pulling. There are also mechanical changes. In recent times, there's been a common theme of reducing RNG overall for boss fights, be it having relatively little RNG dependence in new bosses or reworking old bosses like Kurokage's eyes to soften the worst cases of luck. For Binah, this took the form of changing his accuracy and stability debuff into a new cover quote-unquote debuff. The new cover effect even reduces variance by trading a chance to block damage to instead guarantee taking half damage. And finally, undertuning. The common sentiment is that Binah Lunatic just doesn't have enough health. This could be for any number of speculated reasons. Maybe the playtesters weren't able to anticipate the amount of super team damage we'd be able to put out between Mika and Neru. They kind of have to just decide on a number internally so as to not risk competitive integrity of the whale battles after all. Or maybe they intended for it to be easier to give the casuals a first taste of a Lunatic clear? Maybe they wanted to see how the community would react to a more accessible Lunatic. So it's the easiest Lunatic in history. And how are people feeling about that? On one hand, some people are happily enjoying their first Lunatic clear. Material, you get 20 extra rare coins and normal coins per run. This is modestly appreciated since they steadily started adding more useful students to the rare coin pool. I personally just enjoy stacking up my small mountain of Blu-rays. And then there's the fleeting happiness of saying you cleared a Lunatic. Yay, Lunatic clear. I'd be lying if it said it didn't feel at least a little nice. But then what about the people who live and breathe the bald? The people who say, 1 hour is not enough. Give me a 24-hour ticket attempt. I want to spend 25 hours a day balding and malding, putting together a 10-team clear. It's the one place that the sub-meta stuff even has a chance of being used in the speedrunning era, so I don't exactly blame them for being disappointed. I've heard a lot of cries from them about how it's too easy with the usual threats to quit the game if they don't make the next thing harder. The too easy sentiment seems to be coming from both the Japanese side as well as whatever hardcore Western presence there is. They might be less than 2% of the population going by historical Lunatic clear numbers, but they are a very vocal minority. If the game developer presentation Let's Go Whaling is to be believed, they're also the demographic to be catered to for financial reasons. They're supposedly disproportionately contributing to revenue, so doing everything you can to keep them shoveling money in makes sense as a gacha game operator. And if shiny new gacha characters UE60 and resource packs are the pens you're trying to sell, it might just help if you have a 10-page death warrant for them to write out. So who should the devs be balancing Lunatic towards? I can't speak to the uber whale perspective, so I offer my thoughts as a monthly plus some sensei. I've maintained a platinum streak since May of 2025, and Binah is my first Lunatic clear. My stance is to let the Lunatics have their namesake difficulty. Since my goals are trophies, resources, and pyroxene, Lunatic being easy or hard doesn't affect me much. Trophy-wise, easy Lunatic doesn't help me. If they make the Lunatic easy enough so that I can clear like this time, it's still not going to change the fact that there are only 20,000 platinum spots. I'm still going to be fighting amongst the other lesser try-hard casual sensei. From a resource and pyroxene perspective, I also think it's fine to be excluded from Lunatic. It's not like you're getting any extra pyroxene for the act of clearing Lunatic alone. You just get extra total assault points. Not getting those is similar to the situation with Final Restriction release. They dangle some marginal rewards above floor 97, but for the most part I just want the workbooks that stop at 97. Anything above that is nice on top, however far as possible without excessive extra effort and investment. As for the challenging aspect, I'm mostly okay with letting a higher difficulty be out of reach. That's not to say there isn't some fun in making cope filler parties with whatever you do have, but I'll still get that opportunity in the second, third, or whatever rerun brings enough power creep so that I don't have to spend all my Eligma and equipment for an early clear of a juiced up boss. Most lunatics seem out of reach for a few more cycles in any case. Even the easier lunatics, excluding Binah, have a very high marginal cost of going from Torment to Lunatic. This usually takes the form of some expensive, recently released unit that makes fulfilling the raid's gimmick vastly easier. Think Casual Senna for Kurokage or Camp Maki and Swimsuit Fubuki for Gebera. Otherwise, they usually also require some level of non-fest, non-limited support DPS raising. Pulling and raising the right meta, if you will. That's a level of resource spend that I'm just not comfortable with right now. All this to say, I'd rather have them make it for the Uber Whales if that's healthy for the game as a whole. The trophy and pyro difference is non-existent, and ultimately the challenge doesn't change for the rest of us stuck in the speedrunning hell whether we do it in Torment or Lunatic. But this ship sailed. What will they do moving forward? My gut is that the negative sentiment will be enough that they tune the next one to be significantly harder than the relative difficulty of Binah, like a pendulum swinging between too easy and too hard. I don't know what they'll do about Binah though. As far as my check went, they've never made a boss significantly more difficult after its release, barring bug fixes. So if the patterns of the past hold, Binah won't be getting a Viagra in preparation for his next joust with Sensei. Not that there can't be first times for anyone. Who outside of the devs can know what they plan or think. You know your thoughts though. What about you? What did you think of this Lunatic if you played it? How hard do you think Lunatic should be?